Ghana, the first sub-Saharan country to gain independence in 1957, was seen as a beacon of hope and a symbol of African liberation. As Kwame Nkrumah famously declared, the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of the African continent. This statement embodied the revolutionary spirit that shaped the early post-colonial years. However, the Black Star of Africa, once poised to lead the continent into an era of self-governance and prosperity, has faced numerous trials and contradictions, shaping the country into a complex narrative of triumphs and setbacks. The seeds of Ghana's independence were planted long before 1957, with decades of resistance to British colonial rule. However, the 1950s saw a sharp intensification of this movement, led by the Convention People's Party (CPP), under the charismatic leadership of Kwame Nkrumah. The CPP's slogan, "Self-Government Now," reverberated throughout the Gold Coast as Nkrumah's agenda gained momentum. In 1951, Nkrumah won the first legislative elections, setting the stage for full independence in 1957. Nkrumah's vision was Pan-Africanist, believing that Ghana's freedom was a crucial step toward the liberation of the entire continent. His leadership inspired other African nations to pursue independence, earning him international acclaim. However, beneath the euphoria of independence lay the steep challenges of nation-building, managing the economy, and transitioning from colonial structures. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Ghana's economy was in free fall. High inflation, currency devaluation, and the collapse of basic services made life difficult for ordinary Ghanaians. The Rawlings-led coups in 1979 and 1981 were responses to this dire situation, with Rawlings positioning himself as a populist leader determined to rid Ghana of corruption and inefficiency. However, by the mid-1980s, even Rawlings had to turn to the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and World Bank for assistance, adopting structural adjustment programs (SAPs) that prioritized austerity, privatization, and export-driven growth. While these reforms helped stabilize the economy, they also deepened inequality, cut funding to critical social services, and left many Ghanaians feeling betrayed by the promise of independence. Today, Ghana is hailed as one of the more stable democracies in West Africa, with peaceful transitions of power since the return to civilian rule in 1992. It is home to one of the continent's largest producers of cocoa and has recently tapped into its offshore oil reserves. Yet, the reality remains that Ghana is still battling the remnants of its post-colonial struggles. Corruption, inequality, and youth unemployment plague its political landscape, and the dream of widespread prosperity remains elusive for many. Education has seen improvement, with a growing emphasis on science and technology, yet challenges persist. Access to quality education remains unequal between urban and rural regions, with many schools still lacking proper infrastructure and resources. The rising youth population, while a potential asset, also poses a risk of exacerbating unemployment and discontent if not harnessed properly. In addition, the illegal mining of gold, galamsey, deforestation, and environmental degradation have had serious consequences, impacting agriculture and local communities. The gap between the promise of natural resource wealth and its sustainable management remains wide. The rivers of Ghana, once pure and full of life, now carry the burden of destruction. Illegal mining, known locally as galamsey, has poisoned these waters, turning them into conduits of death. Once, these rivers, the Pra, Ankobra, and Birim, sustained the land, feeding crops, nourishing wildlife, and providing drinking water to millions. But now, they are choked by silt and tainted with mercury and other deadly chemicals, remnants of the mining process. What was once a source of life has become a river of destruction, and the damage is irreversible. The very lifeblood of this nation is being drained away, and with it, the future of countless communities. The rivers do not suffer alone. The devastation wrought by Galamsey has rippled outward, touching every aspect of life. The communities that once thrived along these riverbanks are now left to struggle. Contaminated water has become the new reality. Farmers, once prosperous, now find their crops failing, their land unfertile, poisoned by the very water they once depended on. Families are forced to drink from these polluted rivers, their health deteriorating with each sip. Local authorities are overwhelmed. The cost of treating this water has become a burden too heavy to bear, straining both resources and budgets. Entire villages are being pushed to the brink, as clean water, a basic necessity, becomes increasingly scarce. And the health implications? Diseases spread silently through the tainted waters, leaving behind a trail of suffering. But all hope is not lost. In the midst of this devastation, there are those who refuse to surrender. Across the country, a quiet but determined movement is growing. Communities are coming together to restore what has been lost, to fight for the survival of their rivers. They know that the future depends on their efforts, on their ability to reclaim these waters, to rehabilitate the land, and to breathe life back into the rivers that have sustained them for generations. The task is monumental, and the path ahead is uncertain. But one thing is clear, the fight to save Ghana's rivers is not just about the environment. It is about preserving a way of life, protecting communities, and ensuring that the legacy of these waters lives on. The question remains, will this fight be enough to turn the tide against the devastation of Galamsey? The myth of Ghana as a post-colonial utopia was shattered long ago, but the reality of its resilience shines through. Ghana, like many African nations, continues to navigate the complexities of post-colonial governance, globalization, and internal development challenges. Its people have shown a remarkable capacity for endurance and innovation, from the bustling tech hubs of Accra to the cocoa farms that continue to be the backbone of the economy. In reflecting on its history, Ghana embodies both the successes and contradictions of post-colonial Africa. It is a country still grappling with the legacies of colonialism, military coups, and economic mismanagement. Yet, in every challenge, there lies an opportunity for renewal. The future of Ghana may still hold the realization of the dreams of independence, but only if it can learn from its past and chart a course that prioritizes inclusive growth, social justice, and sustainable development. In the final analysis, Ghana's story is not one of failure or unrealized dreams, it is one of continuous evolution, where the myths of the past meet the realities of the present, and where the future remains unwritten. The black star continues to shine, though the path forward is as complex as the journey behind.